Should I have Facebook up too if there's any?
Hi, Merch Money. The internet was perfect, and then I hit go live, and it like went down to saying you have a poor connection. So I apologize, guys. It was perfect a minute ago. But anyway, we are live with Cameron Scott, and Cameron, for anyone who doesn't know, is fantastic with Amazon ads. And I have seen his posts over the years, but somehow we never really connected. And then someone asked a question in the group about Amazon ads, and Cameron was so nice to step in and comment. And I'm like, what happened to getting you on the show? So
Here I
thank you.
am.
It's long overdue.
Yeah, it is. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. Excited for the questions that are coming, and yeah, we'll see where this go. We didn't really plan out too much, so yeah.
Yep.
How do you want to start this thing?
Yeah, people always ask me what questions I'll ask, and I'm like, we'll just go with the flow once the show starts. So anyway, we'll start with just how you got into print on demand to begin with. And
Sure.
I know you used to work at Fan Print, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I was at FanPrint most of last year. I left at the end of last year. Just it was time to start pursuing my own thing, and which we'll talk about more with my other startup, Merch Jar, which is Amazon advertising focused as well. But print on demand, I started in early 2018, around February. Um, I was kind of in between. I'm one of those people. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. I've always had some kind of side project or
That's awesome.
something I've worked on since I was, small. And I was kind of in between projects and just figuring out what I wanted to do next. I was doing a lot with Facebook ads at the time, a lot of with the video marketing, and I was kind of just playing around with like some small Shopify stores and some Facebook ads, and I ended up applying to merch. I don't even remember how it crossed my. It might have been like one of RJ's videos or something that came up in YouTube.
Nice.
I have no idea. And I just kind of took a flyer on applying and didn't really think much of it, but I got an approval the next week and still didn't really do much with it until my then girlfriend at the time, now wife, she works at a school district and she came home. She had a shirt that's had some kind of like motivational saying on it that a lot of teachers wear, and she was talking about how they didn't this company that they could go and buy these shirts at wasn't making them anymore. So I was like, well, I can put one up on Amazon. I just put at minimum price and whatever. And she went to work, and we sold like 30 in a week of this. And from
Nice.
there, I don't remember if you remember, like back when they were tiering people up with not that many sales, but they tiered me up to I was like tier 500 within a few weeks, I believe, and it just kind of took off from there. So the next month after that happened, I think I hit somewhere around like $600 in royalties between that shirt and some other ones I had posted. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is like legit. This is like a real thing I should pay attention to. And I guess from there, it's been kind of history. Started outsourcing early on and just cranking out designs, and still here today doing that. So
Amazing. I love that. It's so fun to see like how everybody finds merch. It's so many different stories. But being a lifelong entrepreneur is a good start. Like this is um, it's kind of like everything that you've learned from previous entrepreneurial journeys kind of goes with this, right? Like
yeah,
learning how to
yeah.
outsource, learning how to do ads, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially, I guess there's so many. What I love about merch too is just how many different approaches there are to it. I mean, you can
Hmm.
almost treat it like a hobby and just do all your own designs and descriptions and do everything yourself. And then there's the other side where you can kind of treat it more of an investment in a business and start outsourcing everything. And that's what I did early on, because I'm not a designer by any means. I could put like text on a t-shirt in Photoshop, but that's about it. So I had to outsource that stuff early on, because I mean, with any kind of design, and it was easily to see very early on just how important good design is. So that you kind of get that, I don't almost an unfair advantage if you do have good design, compared to somebody that doesn't. And not to say that you have to have the most amazing designs to be successful, because I mean, my best sellers are just simply text with some distressing effects that
Yeah.
anybody could learn how to do with a few Photoshop YouTube videos. So yeah.
Awesome. What we'll go into ads because that's the main thing that I want to learn,
Hmm.
and I'm sure everybody else wants to learn. But before that, I guess just how did you get into ads to begin with? Like, how did you get into Facebook ads, all of that, like
Gosh.
marketing?
Um, God, it's been probably 5 or 6 years now that I've been kind of in the e-commerce sort of
Mhm.
space. I was doing Facebook. I started learning Facebook ads with a startup. It was a software startup a while back that was in we were building a website builder, which I wouldn't
Oh,
do these days, but back then it still seemed like a good idea. But doing Facebook, running Facebook ads for that company is kind of where I got in on that. And then from there, after that, ran out of money and kind of went, parted ways and doing other things. Did a lot of consulting for various e-commerce companies. But one major one was a beauty brand, just selling different beauty type products with some larger Facebook budgets. Trying to think. Then, I mean, from there,
so
Amazon advertising was kind of a natural,
I was just gonna
I
say,
guess.
so how does it compare? Like, since you know both now, do you feel like Amazon ads are easier, or is it all
Yeah,
sort of the same?
actually, yeah, I would say so. Facebook ads and Google as well is just a lot more mature than what the Amazon platform is. I will say the Amazon platform has grown, gotten a lot better very quickly. There's a lot more quality of life features that didn't necessarily exist when I got started, which was probably I think I started running my first ads November 2018. So that first year in March when they were put that little code at the bottom of the
Yes,
merch
yes.
page. So I did do that, fortunately, because they took that complaining about not having access to ads. So I'm glad I did that. But yeah, I would say Facebook's a lot more complicated because one of the great things with Amazon ads is you pretty much their automatic targeting campaigns work great. Like Amazon has tons of data that they
Mhm.
have. They know when someone's more likely to convert based on their search history and all the other data and products they've
Yeah.
clicked on that we don't have access to. And the same thing with Facebook too, right? They have God knows how much data about every single person. But with Amazon ads, for the sponsored ad type we're going to talk about, or the ad type we're going to talk about, sponsored product ads, you don't need any creatives. You're not creating images or you don't need any copy with it, video. You're not doing anything like that. You're pretty much just launching it, and the ads look just like a regular listing. It's exactly what your listing does look like, but it has that little sponsored
Yeah.
text on it. Other than that, that's it. So it's like from a creative side, it takes all that off. It's a huge time saver. You're not split testing different images or copy. So it's much easier to run. At that point, it's just really about analyzing the data that you get with the keywords and search terms and so forth and making decisions based on that. So I would say it's easier. And
Perfect.
partly, again, that's just because of the maturity as well,
Yeah, I
versus
would say
like
the
a
same.
Google ads.
I would say the same thing because it's Facebook ads. There's so much you can do with it, but you have
Mm,
to know more about what your target audience is and finding the right people. And anyway, but before we dive into particulars on Amazon ads and tips for people to create Amazon ads, let's
sure.
talk about why people would do an Amazon ad. Because sometimes people think, well, the design sells itself. Why would I need
Hmm.
to do an ad? Or it's too expensive to do an ad. I'm only making a few dollars on the sale anyway. I don't want to
Sure.
spend money. So these are some of the things people tend to, some people, not everybody, of course, but some people have these stumbling blocks where they don't want to do an Amazon ad for one
Hmm.
of those reasons. So what would you say is a reason to do Amazon ads to begin with?
Well, I'd say probably the most important concept, I guess, to understand about just how Amazon operates is the algorithm, the search algorithm, and how they rank your products. And it's all based around sales. When you get an order, Amazon likes products that sell. That's how they make their money. So products that sell, they like better than products that don't. And when you sell more, they reward you by moving you up in the search rankings. And whether that sale comes from an organic order or a paid order, it doesn't really matter. Now, there's a caveat there. They did recently make some changes to the algorithm where paid orders aren't quite as effective as a organic order, but it's not that big of a difference. So every time you get
Yeah.
a paid order, that's a sale that helps you towards your ranking, and it ends up being a snowball effect. So as you move up in the rankings, you get more traffic, more organic sales, which means more reviews,
Mm-hmm.
which means more sales and more rankings. So that's that snowball effect that you can climb those rankings on those specific search terms. So when you understand that concept, in order to sell more, the best way to sell more on Amazon is to sell more. So it's kind of like one of those weird
Yeah.
things, but and the only way you can have control over that is with advertising. That's the only control you really have, and not just specifically Amazon advertising. You could theoretically do like Facebook ads, some kind of outside traffic, and send them to your page. It would have a similar effect. Those don't seem to be as cost effective or have that return on investment that Amazon ads have at this time. But that's really the core reason is growth.
So
To
that's a good point that you just brought up about that. That was one of my questions, but I almost forgot to ask you. So I'm glad you said it yourself. Do you think that Amazon boosts it more though if you're driving outside traffic from somewhere else other than Amazon?
I don't know that I have enough data to say for sure. There are some people that believe they do. I think if you're driving orders from that outside traffic, yeah, that'll affect your ranking for sure. If it's not leading to orders, I'm not sure it have an effect at all. But I mean,
Okay.
it really comes down to as simply as the more orders you get, the higher your
Yeah.
ranking is.
Yeah.
So and that's done on a search term basis too. If you're using different search term tools like Helium 10, Jungle Scout that can show you where your product indexes on a search term versus other, you're going to have a different index ranking for every single search term. So Amazon does that on each one, and selling on one search term can lift. It's kind of that rising tide. It can lift the other search terms as well. But getting orders on that specific search term in order to rank for it, that's how you do rank for it, is just by getting orders for that. When someone types in that search term on Amazon, then they find your product and buy. And when you're getting more orders than your competitors on that same search term, you're going to outrank them. So that's kind of that core reason why we run ads. There's more as well, which I can get into if you want me to keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Well, let's. More reasons to run it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's like the core one, right? Like you want
Yeah.
more sales. So the ranking is a big part. There's just way more traffic on that first, position 1, 2, 3 than
Yes.
down in the page, and it's exponential. It's not like the position 1 is just getting a little bit more traffic. They're getting maybe possibly 10 times as much traffic as the next spot. People are click on the top listing more often than not. And that's probably more true for some categories than apparel. People do a little more window shopping, I guess, in apparel. Conversion rates aren't as high as some other categories, but it still holds where there's just so much more traffic at the top that it's worth trying to rank towards those top positions. But as far as like other reasons, so that's kind of that whole concept with sales velocity. But outside of that, it's real estate. That ad, when you're on an ad, you can appear on the search results page twice for the same product. You can be in that top search result or somewhere else on in the sponsored ranking, and then as your organic listing too. So you having that real estate means your competitor doesn't have that real estate. Also serves as like a little bit of a social proof. When a customer sees one product, they scroll a little bit down, then they see it again. It acts as almost like a social proof. It's like, oh, this must be, I've seen it twice now. It's kind of that, I don't know. My wife's a psychologist. There's probably a term for it, but
That's a good point. I didn't think about it quite like that. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that's a couple more reasons as well.
And also you get more data because without the ads, like you don't know if people are clicking and not buying, or if they're like, it helps like if they're clicking and not buying, there's probably more issues. Like maybe it's the design or something else is wrong with it. So it gives you more data.
Yeah, it can definitely help you, I guess, analyze some of the things. Like same thing with like the design. It's like maybe the thumbnail's not good. You're getting a lot of clicks, but people aren't converting on that side. So like you can determine those sorts of things, which isn't a good thing. You don't want that since you're paying. Yeah, so those are, I would say, the primary reasons. It all comes down to selling more than your competitors.
Yes. So let's start from the beginning with Amazon ads. What are some of the basics? Like, how do people get started? Do you think they should do an automatic or a sponsored first? How about that?
Sponsored product ads is the type of ad that pretty much everyone should start with. They also have like sponsored brand, display ads, those sorts of things. I would say those are geared towards bigger brands. I haven't done a ton of experimenting with them, but once you get in these other ad types, now you're having to deal with creative. So you're having to do the images, the copy, which for anybody that's new to PPC or pay-per-click advertising, I don't think that's probably the best way to start. Sponsored products, you pretty much just can launch a campaign, let Amazon do its thing. That's where you start. So that's the product type. When you go to create campaign, it's going to be the sponsored product. And I think everyone should start with automatic targeting ads. They work. I mean, some of my best performing campaigns are automatic targeting ads still to this day, even for products I've been running for a couple years. They work really well. So that's where I would start. And the other tip I would have is for most people, I would say have one ASIN or one product in each campaign to start with. You get a lot more control that way, and your data isn't muddied. When you start having multiple products, you can't tell which search term led to which product, I guess, gets attribution for that, since they're grouped together at the ad group level. That's a little more advanced, and I mean, if you're new to it, you probably don't have to worry about it too much. So one product or one ASIN per campaign is where I would start automatic targeting. And then once you start collecting data and seeing what keywords are converting or not converting, because it's really about collecting data and getting enough data so you can make a decision where you have the confidence of that decision as well. It's not, if you only get a couple clicks and, oh, I'm not getting a sale, I just threw away money, you turn it off. That's terrible, because you just wasted money. You didn't get any actionable data out of that. So that's kind of where you start at. Just launch the ads, just get started, launch your campaigns. As far as like product selection, what to start with, start with your products that have reviews, ideally 4 stars plus. The more reviews, the better.
So that was a question I was going to ask. So do you wait until a product sells before you do an ad, or do you do an ad immediately as soon as you upload a product?
So I have enough products selling at this point that I'm only launching campaigns for products that are selling and typically have reviews. I do make exceptions to that. There's one I'm trying to start to rank. It's in the birthday niche, so it's like super, super high competition.
Yeah.
And I started running ads on that one because it started selling organically, a couple times, a day, or, a sale here. So I kind of noticed that, didn't have any reviews yet. I started ads on that one, even though it didn't have reviews that I like, because of the potential of the niche it's in. If it can rank, like there's just tons of traffic that you can rank for and sales you can get from it. But yeah, typically it's something that's selling organically, has reviews. That's kind of my 2 criteria. However, I am starting to look at some ways to launch ads for products that haven't sold yet to test faster, to not have to worry about that organic, praying to Amazon that they show my t-shirt in the right spot and get some sales. So that's another way. And there are people that have had success with that. I haven't implemented the I guess processes for that at this point, with how many we're up to over 115,000 listings at this point. So it just hasn't been. It's a lot of ASINs to go through. It's like, we'll do it at some point, just have a lot going on, so it hasn't kind of hit up my priority list yet. But I said part of this too is like, I'm happy with where the amount of spend I'm at now. That's kind of there's a couple ways you can think of advertising, or like with your account and managing your account, and you kind of have your expansion activities. So when you're expanding the account, which generally comes with spending more money, and then you have your optimization activities, which is kind of shrinking your how much you're spending. You're kind of narrowing your advertising focus, so like negative keywords or lowering bids, so you're not getting as many impressions or targeting as many search terms, that sort of thing. So that would be an expansion activity. It's just I'm not really, I'm kind of focusing on a couple different products at this point. But that's with advertising. There's so many different goals that you can have. So everybody's account's going to be different, and needs are going to be different. That it's really more important that you kind of understand kind of the overall picture of Amazon, not just copy what I do. You know what I mean? I try to which is kind of weird, because there are a lot of people that want to do that. It's like, well, what are you doing? I'll just do that. And it's like that. It's not really quite how it'll work. So it's more about like giving best practices, that sort of thing, so that what's happening under the hood is
Yeah.
important for people to understand.
I think with merch, there's just so many shirts that I think that is a good strategy to wait and make sure you have one that's at least selling. But for anyone that's coming from like the Seller Central world or private label or anything like that, they always recommend like doing an ad immediately, like teaching like Amazon's algorithm, like
Hmm.
what your product is, and just making sure you start off from day one having sales instead of like
Yeah.
possibly going weeks without sales and waiting for organic.
Hmm.
So you might hear different things from different people, but I think it's good with merch. There's just so many products. Like you
Well,
got to
I
pick
think
and
that's what
choose
it
at some
comes
point.
down to. Like someone that's in
Yeah.
private label or selling FBA or whatever, they probably have a lot bigger investment in getting that product to Amazon. They could easily have $5, 15, $20,000 just getting the inventory
Right.
in, where it makes sense that you built some kind of advertising budget to launch your product for something
Yeah.
like that. With merch, I mean, if I don't even know what I'm paying per design, because I mean, depending
Yeah.
on what you're doing and scaling, I mean, it could be pennies a design. That it doesn't necessarily make as much sense to have that advertising budget allocated to test it, because it does. I mean, the more products that you're advertising for, the more data you have to collect to be able to make those decisions, at least with any confidence. If you're, you have 10,000 products and you decide I'm going to do a campaign with all 10,000 products in it, you might get some data across, you might get 100 clicks on that, but if those 100 clicks are on 50 different products and you got 2 clicks on average on each one, it's like, what do you really have there? So I mean, if you are going to advertise for those products, just make sure you're willing to spend the money to get that data. Otherwise, that's almost worse, honestly, than
Yeah.
just testing one product and
Yeah.
getting data. Even if it doesn't turn out, at least you got something you can use. Because data, the things that don't work is just as important as the things that do work.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure you can spend the time and really do the ads right. So let's go into that. So what? And guys, I see some of you guys are asking questions. I'll get to it in just a minute, but I want to welcome everybody. Brad's watching, Karen's watching. Yeah, Karen is. He gets asked a lot of questions about ads too. Um,
Yeah, he's doing pretty well. Maybe you should
yeah, definitely. Come
tell him
on
to turn his
and
camera on. Let's jump on.
good point. Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh, geez, I was reading that. Okay, so you pick a shirt you want to do an ad on. What's the first step? Like, do you do any initial things, or do you just hit like go?
No, I
basically?
keep it pretty easy. Like, I mean, I kind of, if I'm launching a new campaign, let's just say I see a product like, hey, this one's like starting to sell, whatever. It's got a review now. I'm going to launch a campaign. I'll open the product page up, grab the ASIN, and just jump over to the ad console and launch an automatic campaign. That's where I start every single product, is with that automatic campaign. And I'll just let that do its thing. Once it gets sales, then you can do a lot more with it. You can start getting into manual campaigns, moving keywords from your automatic targeting to your manual targeting, and so forth. But yeah, automatic campaign with every single one. Now, if I was testing products, there was one, I'm actually going to put a case study out on this at some point once I get some time, but there was a trending design I was going for. I hardly ever do trends. I prefer evergreen stuff I can keep selling, and this was a trend that I thought might have some potential. I did some ads on it. It was one of those that, kind of news stories that hits, and you got to be pretty fast on it. So I had my design team come up with, I don't know, 30, 40 designs or whatever. Those I just put all in one ad group in an automatic campaign, because none of them were tested. Kind of let Amazon just figure out what product was going to sell, because I didn't have any data at this point. I didn't know what people would buy. So with that, I let Amazon just kind of, take those 30, 40 ASINs in that one ad group, and Amazon's just going to kind of rotate through those. Once they see what's getting clicks or orders, especially, they'll start kind of going for just those ones that are getting data. They kind of forget about those other products. They kind of start weighting what they're seeing. So that's kind of the negative when you do something like that, especially if you do have a lot of products. Is once Amazon sees like what's
Did we
kind
lose
of
you for a
working.
second?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Oh, okay.
It froze for a second.
No worries.
Um, so so let's use that as an example. You're doing a trend. You have 30 or 40 shirts. You just throw them all up there and you
Hmm.
do ads on all of them. Do you turn them off as like you notice some of them are selling more than other ones? Like, do you just keep the ads going on the ones that are doing better, or do you keep the ads on
Yeah,
all of them?
I mean, if I had enough data to turn one off, I don't know that. So what my process is there is I have them all in there. Once I see one getting an order, I'm taking that ASIN out and putting it into its own automatic campaign. I'm going to um, I want to be able to, I guess, try to optimize that specific product. Then I'll turn that product off if I moved it into its own, turn it off from that original ad group with those 40 products, and then
Oh,
see
okay.
what Amazon see, maybe another one will sell. I try to,
So I missed that what you said. So you start one campaign with all the 30 or 40
yep.
shirts.
Yep,
Okay.
and
And
that's just for
then
testing to see what's going to work. And as soon as a product sells, I want to get that out into its own campaign.
got it. Okay, that makes sense. So then whichever one's doing well from that group, you take it and start an
Yep,
automatic.
yep,
And then do you ever do manual or
I
do you just
do.
okay, so
Yeah,
when do you
once
decide to do manual?
First, it needs to get data. I mean, if it's only getting one order, once a month or so, you're probably not really getting enough that the manual
Yeah.
campaigns are doing a whole lot of.
Okay.
So if something's getting a few orders, I'll spin up a manual campaign and start moving any search terms that sell. So there's a ton of different ways you can structure a campaign. So I can give some examples. There's a lot of different ways. I just want to kind
Yeah.
of preface that. And the balance between how you structure your campaigns usually comes down to the amount of control that you want within your campaign, because there's different I'm trying to think how far like in depth we want to go. There's certain campaign settings that apply to every single ad in that campaign, and then there's different settings at the ad group that only affect the ad group level. So there's different considerations like that based on how you want to structure your campaigns, and you're balancing that with just how much time it takes to manage. So you could go on the one extreme. You have all of your products in one campaign. You just have one campaign and you optimize that. It's easy to optimize because you just have one campaign. You're not bouncing around a bunch of different places. But you don't have a lot of control. If you do any placement adjustments, for example, that's done at the campaign level. So if you do a placement adjustment, for anyone not familiar, is where you can say, tell Amazon is, okay, here's my bid. Let's say my bid's $1. You can tell Amazon that you'll increase your bid up to 900% is what you can do, but that's pretty extreme. So we'll say 100%. So instead of $1, you'll pay up to $2 for every click, but only on the top of search placement. So that first row of 4 sponsored ads. So if you were to have everything in one campaign, and you do that adjustment setting, every single ad now has that adjustment setting for that top of search, where some might perform well at top of search and some might just be garbage, even though they perform elsewhere and bring those other ones down. So that's kind of that control versus what was it? Control versus just how easy it is to manage. Versus the other extreme would be where you have one campaign for every single keyword on one product. So you might have one product that could have potentially hundreds of keywords, and that would be again for more granular control of it. But that's really hard to manage when you potentially
Yeah.
have hundreds of products that you're advertising, and then hundreds of keyword or different campaigns for each product. So we need to kind of like balance that somewhere in
Yes.
between. And a good reason to do that, part of it is just based on how much data you're getting. If you have a campaign that's again only selling a few times a month, you're not getting hundreds of orders a month, or spending tons on it. It doesn't really make sense to go to that extreme where you have one keyword per campaign. So a structure I like that I do with a lot of products is my automatic campaign. I have a manual testing campaign, so I'm going to move search terms that sell from my automatic campaign to my manual testing campaign, and I'll do that as a broad match and an exact match. I've an ad group for each one of those. I just separate them out, and that's more for organization purposes. And then I'll have a third campaign. This is my performance campaign that I call it, and it's only going to have exact matches in it. And then when I have my search terms get so many orders, let's call it 5. And this is kind of where you kind of need to experiment and figure out what
Yeah.
kind of feels right for you, based on how much data you're getting. Because you also don't want to, move 100 key search terms in, because 100 different search terms that got an order into your exact match. That's too many keywords in one campaign for Amazon to really efficiently spend. So then, I'll just move those search terms from that testing campaign to that performance campaign once they hit whatever my threshold is. 4 or 5 orders, something like that. It's kind of, search terms have been validated, my best performing ones, in that performance one.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So I just saw Emma said this is so complex. Guys, first
I
of all,
might have a visual if that helps. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, you can definitely share your screen. I think somebody had asked that, Patty, I think. And I'm so sorry, guys. So many people in the chat. So Patty is saying great info. Let's see. Eric is asking you, and hi, Eric was on Clubhouse the other day. It's good to talk to you. Let's see. What does he start the PPC bid at for a new campaign?
Okay, that's a good one. So bids with my new campaign, a lot of this has to do with the products that you're selling. So like this is what I do. You're going to need to figure out what works for your products and so forth. Most recently with all my automatic campaigns, I've switched to a bidding strategy of up and down. So maybe we can explain that real quick. So Amazon has 3 different bidding strategies that you can use. You have down only, up and down, and fixed. So what that means is when you select down only and you have a bid of $1, we'll use a $1 bid for each of these. You're telling Amazon is you'll bid up to $1, but no more than that. And Amazon will, but your bid can go down. So if Amazon is getting somebody and the auction is 75 cents, you'll pay 75 cents for that click. Up and down, you're telling Amazon with a $1 bid is that you can go up to $2. They'll adjust it by up to 100% to get a click if Amazon thinks it'll convert to a sale. So this is kind of where Amazon's using all the data they have from all their customer purchases to say, hey, this person's more likely to convert. And if the auction was, say, $1.50, you could actually win that auction now because you have that up and down. It'll actually increase it up to 100%. In a fixed bid, your bid is always $1. It's always going to be $1. It's never going to change. Amazon's not going to lower it if they think it's a lower potential conversion. So those are the 3 different ones. Down only is probably the safest to use, especially if you're on a budget. I use that for all my manual campaigns. With automatic, I've switched to using up and down, and that's really more, I'm not as budget conscious with new campaigns. It's really for me about collecting as much data as fast as possible. So that allows me to get more clicks faster to make decisions faster. You don't need to do that. You can start with if you are budget conscious, start with lower budgets, for example, and down only. And that's kind of a safer way. You can still get impressions. You can still get clicks, just maybe not as fast of a rate, but you're not as likely to spend as much per click. So on the other side, where what I'm doing, it's a lot more aggressive, and I'm likely going to spend a lot higher cost per clicks, but again, I get that data faster. So that's kind of the trade-off. As far as the dollar amounts you should start at, so those are the 2 options with automatic. You can do down only if you want to be more conservative, up and down if you can be aggressive and collect that data as fast as possible. With up and down, I'll start usually my close and loose match. Okay, maybe I should touch on this. So for starting bids, you're going to have a default bid setting on both manual and automatic campaigns. Manual doesn't really matter so much since you're going to set a bid for each keyword. But with automatic, there's actually 4 different targeting groups that Amazon uses to determine who it shows your ads to, which are close match, loose match, substitutes, and complements. Close match are going to be search terms that are really close to what your product is. So pretty much like what you have in your title and description, where a loose match is going to be more similar to like a broad match keyword where It could be all kinds of things that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with your product, but can still perform really well. And same
Exactly.
with all these different targeting groups can perform well.
There's a reason they're all there.
Right,
Amazon is
exactly.
not going to put stuff that doesn't work.
I have tons of I've seen tons of campaigns where close matches just does not perform well at all, and loose match is running at like a 10% A cost. It's crazy, which you wouldn't think that would work, and then close match I can't optimize to save my life. So
Real quick, I know you're about to say something else, but real quick with the close match and the loose
mhm.
match, do you have a theory of like what types of designs work well for close match and what work?
No,
You don't?
no, I
For
don't.
me, this is just a theory. I have no clue if it's true or not. But if I have like, I've tried it on pop sockets. I don't know if you ever do ads for pop sockets, but I did for a while. And if they were just like simple designs, like I did, it's basically like a pattern or like something that anyone could buy. Like it's like
Sure.
pretty much any kind of person could buy it. It's not like a specific, like, oh, this is for a mom or this is for, like, it's just general, like nice design. If I did loose match, those worked really well because basically if it shows up anywhere, you never know who's going to click on it and buy it because
Right,
it's like,
yeah.
it's not a so specific. If
Yeah,
they're like,
that's
oh, I do need a
interesting.
pop socket.
Yeah, I guess I haven't done any I haven't sat down and seen like, oh, these, close match, these kind of designs. I don't know. I mean, my advice would be to test them all anyways, because you just don't like, I've sold enough shirts that I couldn't even sit here and look at a design and say, hey, yeah, this one's going to sell and this one's not. I've been surprised too many times. The stuff you would think would never sell ends up selling. And, the design you had all your hopes in just doesn't do anything, even running ads. So yeah, my philosophy is just test everything. And that's, I mean, that's kind of just the adage of any PPC. Anybody that's done PPC probably has the same mantra as you just have to test everything constantly. So testing what works for you specifically. So this is great. Like, hey, here's all the answers and do exactly this. And it just may not work for you. But again, it's more about kind of those, just understanding those concepts to give you a little more confidence in what you're doing.
So which one do you normally start with? So I think we kind of went through, you start with automatic, then you start doing
manual.
Manual.
Yep.
Do you pick close match, loose match? What do you pick first?
So for the automatic campaigns, you're gonna have close match, loose match, complement, substitute within that. If you go down to your bid, there's a drop down for each of those, and you can set a bid specifically for each one. And this is important because each of those are going to perform differently. Oftentimes, complements and substitutes, which complements don't get a ton of impressions for me on merch products. I think there's something's up with those that they don't show impressions. Those tend to have much lower bids and competition than loose match and close match. But all four of I'll start with all four of those. I want to test all of them to see which one's going to work. I don't know on any new product. Only the data can tell me that. So I'll start with all those: loose match, close match. If I'm doing up and down bids, I'll start 30, 35 cents, maybe 15 to 20 cents on close and loose match. If I'm doing down only, I'll start a little bit higher, usually around like 55 cents for most products. If I don't have any idea. If it's a product I'm really trying to push, I'll increase. I'll go more on suggested bids. Amazon tells you, hey, here's what the bid is based on the competitors for this product, what they think you should do. I'll use that and increase. I'll go above the suggested bid by a few cents if I'm trying to be aggressive with it and I want to get that data as fast as possible. Otherwise, you can start low. You can start at 5 cents if you wanted to. If you want to be conservative for 2 cents, it doesn't really matter. If you're not getting impressions, you just increase the bid a little bit, wait a little bit, see if you're getting impressions. If you're not, just increase the bids a little bit more until you kind of find that spot where you are getting impressions. That's a solid strategy if you're on a budget. You kind of just keep slowly working up till you start getting that those impressions and clicks and data at a lower rate than you would if you started at a higher bid, but again, a slower rate as well.
Yep. Yeah, I've definitely had some 5 cent ones work. I'm like, oh, this is awesome.
It happens. But you also maybe leave a lot of money on the table too. Is that same performance would work at 20 cents or whatever, because you're now likely going to get a lot more impressions, and especially with like automatic and broad targeting. a broad keyword, you're not just targeting, you're targeting potentially hundreds or thousands of search terms with one keyword. So you do kind of need to collect a lot of data for those kind of broad matches as well, more so than you would say like an exact match that's only going to have maybe a handful of search terms that you're targeting.
This is so many different things to think about with ads. Like, so I love that you do more than one campaign per product. I know that's the right way to do it. I never get myself to do that. Like once I do one, it's like I'm on to the next thing. So I have a couple
most
questions.
My products have one campaign, so
Yeah.
I don't do that for every single one.
So let's talk about that.
If you're not getting the data, it doesn't really behoove you to.
Two main questions. What criteria do you use to decide if you're going to do more than one campaign? And then also, how long do you do the campaigns? Is there ever a time that you decide, you know, the product's doing well enough, let's stop the campaign?
No.
Or does it just go on forever?
Yeah, I never stop campaigns.
Okay.
I won't even pause a keyword or a target. When I say target, you can target product pages. And also like the automatic campaigns I refer to as a target. So I won't even pause those if a target or a keyword has at least a couple orders. I'll just lower the bids. As far as like deciding when to start additional campaign, it really just based on the data. If it's something selling enough to warrant an additional campaign for testing, I'll do it. So if something, even if it gets a couple orders, it'd be maybe a good time to do it.
Okay. So you never stop ads. I think that's a mistake I do. I tend to stop them. Like my thought process was, you know, once it has reviews and once it has some momentum, like it kind of just gets organic traffic at that point. Like in my mind, I was like, let me stop the ad and then it's just all profit from here on out. But I think like learning from you and other people, I'm like, oh, that's not the right strategy. So for anyone who's made that mistake, like I have, what is the reason to keep the ads going forever?
Well, ranking specifically, because if you use a tool like Healing Intent or Jungle Scout that can show you your how you're ranking on your search terms, it fluctuates constantly. Your competitors if they're running ads and now all of a sudden you're not, they're going to start getting those incremental sales that you're not, and then that sales velocity kind of comes into place. And just like it's a snowball effect on the way up the rankings, it's a snowball effect on the way down as well. So if you were, say, position 1 for some key search term that was bringing in tons of traffic, and then you stopped ads and those few orders were kind of keeping you afloat at the top, there's enough orders to keep you above your competitor that you don't have. Now you're dropping in the ranking. They're getting those sales that you weren't. So it can kind of lead to, that kind of reverse sales velocity where you fall down the rankings. And it does depend on your product a little bit too. My 2 best sellers are in kind of those broad niches that apply to a ton of different search terms. They're indexing for 3,000 plus search terms. Those are extremely high competition that, you have to run ads to stay competitive. And I've had it where my ads have paused where maybe I didn't pay the credit card bill on time and I lost a couple days. I didn't realize it or whatever. It's very noticeable when the sales or when ads stop because it just plummets.
So I think that's like with me, I tend to niche down more. I don't tend to do like the biggest, most competitive things, which is another mistake. That's another mistake because if you're in these shirts that there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of people buying, and that's where you can really make a lot.
Yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, with the success I've had in a couple of these, have definitely steered me to go after more of these high competition ones where I may not have been as willing to in the past. But to do that, you do have to be willing to spend money. I mean, you're never going to overtake these powerhouse ASINs that have thousands of reviews with only organic sales. Maybe you're talking about like lottery winning type stuff. It's just not going to happen. Because again, my whole portfolio, probably 99.9% of my portfolio is evergreen products, and most of those sell a handful of times, maybe a month, which I think is pretty typical for most people's products,
Yeah.
and I still run ads on those as well. And at that point, maybe it's more about I run break even most of the time on my advertising. That's kind of my target, to just break even on ads and then let the organic come in off of that. Generally, I've seen that for every paid order that you get, you're getting 3 to 4 organic orders, and that's been pretty consistent. So as my ad spend increases and paid orders increases, so does my organic at the same rate.
Okay.
So, and that has to do with kind of like lifting you up in those rankings. You get that increased traffic from those higher rankings. So yeah, if you're using tools, you can track your search term ranking over time, see the effect on that. You can compare that to your ad spend as well. I mean, it's all very time consuming. And I don't do that for all my products. I have my 2 best sellers that make up probably 75% of my revenue. Those are the ones that I'm spending all that time on. It's kind of the 80-20, where the rest of them, I'm going to kind of let it do its thing, run the automatic ads, get some incremental sales and reviews. And then maybe over time, some of those can kind of lift into these best sellers. But I know, when I'm doing product research and looking to develop some new products, and I'm going for these high competition niches, I know these products I'm putting out, that's going to be a 2-year process until it's hitting product maturity.
I'm so glad you bring that up, because that's a whole nother mindset to get into, that this is like long-term game that you're playing. Because I think most people just try ads for like a week or however long, like, and then just either say it's not profitable or give up or whatever. So how did you even think about how you're going to work on a shirt for 2 years?
Well, I don't know that it was like, I'm going to work on this necessarily for 2 years. And the 2 I have existing that are making most of the money, those kind of, I mean, I don't know if that was purposefully like I'm targeting these to be these huge sellers. That kind of came up organically, I guess, if you will, obviously with paid ads, just over time. And
you start to see which ones are getting the most momentum.
You have to get reviews, first of all. Like if you're competing in any, you want to show up on Funny T-shirt or something, you're not going to do that with 3 reviews. So you're going to need, from what I've seen, you need at least 5, ideally closer to like 20 reviews.
Well, it just keeps changing over the years. Like in the beginning, having any review, your shirt would do really well. And now it's getting to the point where you need like a 20 reviews or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Part of that too is just the, which I think was beneficial, is when they moved to the rating structure, the rate of reviews just went way up. From what I noticed, just having people not have to type something. And I haven't seen what the rate is, but I would guess it's almost double, which I think is good. I mean, where my strategy is to get as many orders as possible, the more orders you get, the more reviews you get. And that's when you can really start to push for those rankings. But again, I'm doing that on the bestseller. I'm not doing that across hundreds of products. It really is really time consuming to do that.
I just realized it's already 8:48. I can't believe, like, I could talk to you for hours about this. Like, I feel like we haven't even started, and it's already. I want to make sure you have a chance to talk about whatever links I put. So I know you have a Facebook group about ads. What else do you have? I don't even know all the stuff that you have.
So the Facebook group about ads, Amazon Ads University. I think you had a link in the group.
I think it should be a link in the Facebook or YouTube, whichever one you guys are watching on.
Yeah, that one's been going for a while. There's a lot of great content in there. I started a new Facebook group called Merch Mechanics, just so I can talk about like merch and other stuff without kind of keeping that one just specific to advertising. And then have a couple YouTube channels for each one as well.
Oh, you do? Okay, so I know you have a YouTube channel under your name, Cameron Scott.
Yep.
I don't know if I linked that one. Guys, definitely go check that out, because he did this video on the shirt that we were kind of just briefly talking about, where it was the 2-year process. But that video is amazing. Like, you will see how worth it is by the end.
I appreciate that. It took a long time to put together.
Yeah, because you're making like, what was it, like $48,000 or something?
That one last June did $44,000
in 1 month.
Sold in 1 month. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was crazy. Which we'll see what it does this year. I mean, there was a lot of factors which I go into the video about it. So yeah, I'm excited to see what it'll do this year. But I'm actually excited about my second best selling product is outselling that one by 3 times already at this point in the year. So I think I may have some new competition for it. So stay tuned.
Just think about that. Like you get a few of those shirts going, it's like, oh my God. Talk about a snowball. Wow.
Yeah, and the one I did the video on, I don't even think I mentioned in the video, but I actually almost turned off ads for it because it was pretty close to my threshold for turning them off. Back then I was turning them off sooner than I am now. I'm kind of collecting more data, kind of partly because of that. But I
thought you said you don't turn ads off.
Well, this was one that wasn't selling, like turning off for like keywords and targets that aren't selling. So it wasn't performing at that point. So I'm glad I left it running because it turned into this kind of monster.
And I think I think it's good to point that like it depends on how competitive the market is, or like what niche and what keywords you're focusing on. Because maybe it wasn't, I don't know. What do you think? Like, why do you think that it wasn't converting in the beginning and now it's converting so much?
Well, part of it is, I mean, a brand new product doesn't have any reviews, so that's going to have a lower conversion rate just naturally. Yeah. I mean, people are trained to want reviews. Like, how many products do you buy on Amazon that don't have any reviews? I buy very little. I don't know that I would even trust that. So as this kind of gained reviews over time, that's when it really the conversion rate increased. And when I first started, I think it had like the first review was like a 2-star, so it started kind of in the hole. So that's also another reason I may have been considering turning it off. Like sometimes you just can't really come back from that. And at this point, it just kind of grew over time to 3.5, then 4-star, and it's settled in now. Like I've noticed about 4.7 is where they settle in a lot of the time once they hit 1,000+ reviews. So I think that's why. I mean, just collecting reviews. That's why it's that 2-year process. It could be even longer too, and it's still an ongoing process. At this point now, I'm trying to rank for some really high competitive, kind of that funny T-shirt, that brings in thousands and thousands of traffic. Because if you can get to those top spots, I mean, the rewards are tremendous for them.
Wow, amazing. Well, I can't believe I got to talk to you and learn all this stuff. This is so great.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again. This was fun.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we don't have to stop right this second. It's not even, I just don't want to be wasting your time, but
no, this is fun.
I don't know if we really talked about Merch Jar at all. I don't know anything about Merch Jar, guys. So I'm not an affiliate. I don't know anything about this, but
we don't have any affiliates at this point.
Learn along with everyone else.
So Merch Jar. So I've been doing the Amazon advertising thing for some time, and some of the things I've talked about just here is just some of the frustration of how hard it is to manage your campaigns. So that kind of got me looking to see what tools are out there, because there's the Amazon API. There's a lot of tools out there, and none of them are geared towards merch. So either the number of SKUs that we have, potentially thousands, versus like a Seller Central type seller that might only have a few dozen products. They either didn't handle the vendor program, which was what merch is under for the advertising, or it was just ridiculously expensive. It doesn't work with the merch margins that are there. So I decided to just build our own. So we have Merch Jar is a Amazon advertising automation and optimization software where it just makes it a heck of a lot easier to optimize all your campaigns. It automates moving. So how I use multiple campaigns for one product, it automates the whole moving of keyword process, which is probably the biggest time saver, as well as negative keywords too. So anytime search terms aren't performing, it can automatically add those as negative, so you're not wasting a bunch of ad spend. So it's a software tool. Me and my co-founder, he's the tech guy, he's created a brilliant app just based on mine and all the other users' feedback. And we're actually really close to launch. We should be launching in the next couple of days. So really excited about it. It's been almost a 2-year project so far.
But it hasn't launched yet.
We're in beta right now, so we have
okay. So that's why I don't know about it.
So it hasn't. We haven't.
I
really
thought I was just out of the loop.
No, we haven't heavily advertised or anything marketed, but we've been letting people in from the Amazon Advertising University group that I run in. That's kind of the group that's tied to Merch Jar.
Mhm.
We've kind of taken the approach to just do a lot of educational content to help people learn ads and hopefully try out the software too. And we think it saves a ton of time. It kind of came from my own pain points and
Yeah.
issues with not just the Amazon ad console that they have, but just the other tools that exist. I mean, that's where it came from. So we got a
Yeah.
lot of users and feedback's been great. Yeah, check it out. Right now it's free to try. And we're going to be launching here, like I said, in the next couple days. So
Wow, that's really exciting. Well, I mean, this has been amazing. Is there anything else that we haven't covered? I mean, I know there's so much.
yeah, there's
like,
yeah,
is there anything else you really wanted to talk about before we end?
I
How
should
about that?
say I am not Filthy Phil. I don't.
I'm so sorry. We used to have such great like people that would watch the show and great conversations, and now they've been lately like a little out of whack. So don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy. There's so many things we could talk about with ads that, and it can be
Yeah.
complicated too. Especially that's why I've kind of moved to doing more video stuff, just because it's a little more conducive to, I guess, teaching some of the more complicated aspects of it. Because there is a lot, but I don't think anybody should get overwhelmed with how much there is to know. But just to get started,
Yeah.
Amazon does a good job of just making it easy to have effective ads just through their automatic targeting. So I would say that's my advice. Just get started and collect enough data. Don't turn off your stuff after 15 clicks and no sales.
Yeah.
Like that's not enough. So that'd be my other 2 cents.
Yes. Oh man. I have to definitely go back and rewatch this. Let's see. Thank you. Patty. Good to see you. Sorry. Everybody need to be invited to do so.
So
you
what
have to
they're
have, but I think now you can. If you, I think that's a little crazy.
I think you're
Can you guys still hear me?
It sounds okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good now. You broke up for a little bit.
Okay, sorry. Patty, if you are on your Amber's saying thanks, guys. Hi, Amber. So good to see you. Patty, if you are on your merch account, if you see a tab that says advertise, then you have it. But I'm not sure. I know I have it on my account, but I'm not sure if it's rolled out to everyone or not.
I don't think so at this time. They're still doing the rollout. Not everybody has access yet to
Okay.
it. But I mean, it seems that they're making progress. They're obviously pushing towards that. It's something we're pushing. We have a partnership with the Amazon advertising team, and something we're pushing for as well. We obviously want to have, it benefits us to be, have more people that have access to Amazon ads. The more we benefit. So we're pushing for that as well.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get it soon, Patty, if you don't have it. But this has been amazing. We could probably learn Facebook ads from Cameron if you end up not getting Amazon ads.
Yeah, I've been out of the game on that for a little while, so I don't know how much is different, but probably more expensive now if I had to guess than it used to be.
Yeah, if anybody wants to do Facebook ads, I would definitely recommend doing Shine On. Have you ever tried Shine On? It's jewelry instead of t-shirt.
I've heard of it. Yeah, it's cool for sure.
Because then you have a
higher margin.
Much higher margin, so it works better with Facebook ads.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. But guys, there's so much more to learn. So definitely make sure you join Cameron's Facebook group and make sure to ask any questions in the comments or on the YouTube video. And we'll get back to you. I feel like there was so much more. Maybe we'll just do a part 2 at some point. There was so much more, but it was just, we ran out of time. So
we gotta start somewhere. So
exactly. This is part 1.
Yeah, we'll ease everybody into it. You guys will be spending thousands of dollars on ads before you know it.
Yes. Because you'll be making thousands of dollars.
Right. That's right.
I'm tens of thousands. So, all right. Well, thank you, Cameron. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
And we'll
thanks for
see you
having me
next
on. I
time.
appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much.